Inventory systems are vital to a game's overall feel and style. Some inventories are incredibly complex and over-designed, such as with games like Tarkov or some older RPG games. But the thing is, it works for them. Other games have very simple inventories with very few moving parts or systems. And just as with the complex systems, simple systems fit into certain kinds of games. As for me, I'm going for something of a hybrid approach, a little unique. So my game will have sort of a extremely simple inventory, but also what I call a gear system. And accompanying these will be a buff system as well as a durability system for items. These systems, along with the player's vital systems, will form an ecosystem that works in cycles with one another. They are all linked. In the first devlog, I talked about potential options and different things that might work. Now I've made my decisions. My devlogs have become pretty bloated and long, and I recently got a comment telling me to refocus on the games instead of YouTube content, and I had to sit and think about it, and I realized that I fully agree. I have gotten away from what I want this channel to be, so it's time to get back. So in the next few months I'll be focusing more on my games and less on filler content. I'll also compress the devlogs and make them more palatable. So with that said, let's get into it. Okay, so here is how the inventory will work in relation to the gear and buff and durability system. First up, potions and vitals management. I have decided to forego the potion system entirely and rather make something somewhat unique, a flask. In the Death Rattle series of games I've made and am making, it works more like your Elder Scrolls style games where you can pick up a bunch of potions that all do various things and bloat up your inventory. Instead, since this is a vampire hunting game, you'll have just two flasks. One is a health flask and the other is a power flask, which is this game's version of mana. Check the bottom left of the screen for the basic implementation of them. I have coded them to work alongside the interactive system and buff system. This is naturally an early iteration, so it might change visually and functionally. See this as sort of a proof of concept. So how it works is that you have these flasks and they are sort of permanent potions, if you can put it that way. But of course they can be used up. So for instance, you'll use up a bunch of power in a battle and lose some health, take some damage. You'll have two full flasks, so you'll drink a sip from each, restoring your health and power, but consuming some of the flask. As of now, flasks hold 4 sips. Now in the future I'm considering making a shop or upgrade system where you can buy new flasks or upgrade your flasks to have a larger capacity. This is just a thought for now, but could become a system in the future. So eventually your flasks will be empty, right? Right. So what can you do? Well, one way might be that shop system that I mentioned, but that's irrelevant right now. The way it works now is that you'll come across certain interactable systems and items in the game at certain points. Let's take the Power Well and Vampire Graves, for example. The Power Well is a natural well infused with glowstone dust, which you can use to refill your power flask. Glowstone dust is a natural resource found within these mines and dungeons below Red Dusk. See the previous videos for more info, specifically the story video. As for the Vampire Grave, it works similarly. When you kill any vampire, it will leave behind a grave. This grave can then be interacted with to fill up your health flask with vampire blood. It is well known in most mythological and fantastical lore that vampire blood heals human vitality, and the Uliador universe is no different. And then, there are also more general interactive buff systems. These are systems like the cooking station, which you can eat from, and then it will grant you a temporary vitality boost and a full restoration to your vitality. Then there are glowstone crystals, which you can break and use a piece to grant you a temporary power buff and a full restore of power. The other interactables are the grindstone and anvil. The grindstone will sharpen your weapons and grant a temporary speed and damage increase, and the anvil will repair your equipment fully, at the cost of scrap, of course. And that leads me quickly on to the equipment durability system. This is relatively simple. Shields, swords, and other items will have limited uses. They are used up in combat essentially. You are able to break your weapons and equipment to acquire scrap. Scrap is used at anvils to repair your weapons and your equipment. This is a simple system that is easy to use and follow. It hasn't been entirely coded yet, but the idea is cemented. All interactables can be interacted with, but are then disabled for a short time, so as to not be spammable. They can then be used later again, if you choose to return. So right now there are 6 interactables. Number 1, lesser and higher vampire graves. Number 2, power restoration wells. Number 3, the cooking pot. Number 4, glowstone crystals. Number 5, the anvil. Number 6, the grindstone. So, there you have it. That's the idea for the interactable system and buff systems. I'm trying to keep it relatively straightforward and easy to use. So, let's then move on to the functionality of the inventory system combined with that of the gear system. So, the inventory is painfully simple and basic really. So much so that right now the only item that's really stackable is scrap. I'm working out the kinks, but I think that I might leave it this way if it works well. Instead of having a bloated inventory, you'll have a gear system that allows slots for specific items. For example, a primary weapon, smaller secondary weapon, tertiary hidden weapon such as a knife, shield, rings, armor, and a necklace. This might change, but it's the idea for now. I'll show some interface examples of how other games and other designers have done it to show you more or less what I have in mind. So with this system, you can only keep one of each item. This is a tricky thing to get right because it promotes careful consideration of item selection versus item destruction. For example, let's say you have a sword that you love, but you find another that is slightly stronger, but maybe it looks worse or there's something else that you dislike. Usually, you'll have the option to keep both. But in this game, I want to force the player to carefully choose. That means that you can only carry one of each type of weapon. You can either discard items that will drop them in the world and you can fetch them, or you can destroy them for scrap and possibly crystals or gems, depending on if I decide to make an enchantment system, which I will discuss another time. The idea is that the game has more of a grounded feel, where you aren't some superhuman that carries around 400 potions, 8 swords, 3 staffs, 2 hammers, and has 5 sets of full body armor on him. And it's not that I care about realism, because I don't. It's a fantasy game where you hunt vampires. It's just that I want simple and refined systems that offer bonuses but come at certain costs. I want sacrifices and boons. I know that not everyone will like and enjoy this system, but hey, it's my game. I might change it in the future, but that's true for all of this. Any of this can change at any moment. So, to sum it all up, you have 2 flasks, one for health and one for power. You can use them like potions. They are refillable and might be upgradable in the future. There will be interactables in the world that you can interact with. These will provide vitals, power, weapon and equipment buffs, and restores. There is a simple inventory which right now only contains scrap but can be improved in the future. Your weapons will be breakable and repairable. You'll be able to destroy them for scrap, but you can only have one of each type of item on you at any given time. So that's it then. I hope I have explained these systems well and that you'll look forward to using them. With games, there are many ways to do things and there are always drawbacks but positives to any decision. But a decision must be made. The channel has been having steady growth as of late, if a little bit slower than before. But thank you all for interacting. I hope to keep you coming back for more. As I said earlier, I'm refocusing on game content again. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep scrapping.